Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's Bendy and the Ink Machine video, we take a look at the ending to Chapter 4 with a full analysis and my personal theory behind its meaning. Bendy Chapter 4 ended in a way that left us with more questions than answers, so hopefully this video will help you understand it a little better. But remember, this is just a theory I have put together myself, based on the information we currently have, so be sure to let me know what your thoughts are. Also, remember to subscribe and hit that bell to be notified every time a new video drops. So what exactly happens at the end of Bendy Chapter 4? After entering the haunted house attraction within Bendyland, Alice informs Henry to
hang on tight, I've got a surprise.
Henry then comes face to face with an evil version of his former friend Boris, who Alice has transformed into a hulking robotic powerhouse of pure vengeance. Henry has no option than to defeat his former pal, and as a result, Boris returns to the ink he came from. Then, this happens. Alice is killed by Alice? And why is there another Boris beside her, albeit a far angrier looking one, tooled up and ready to wage war alongside Henry? These two almost look like freedom fighters. To explain this ending, we need to look at two separate theories. The first question must be, who are the two Alice angels? While the second theory involves us questioning who this new Boris actually is. Once we establish this and answer these questions, the ending makes a whole lot more sense. So let's begin by taking a look at Alice Angel. Previously, I had spoken about Alice Angel as a character I believed was the embodiment of two separate people. Those two people were Susie Campbell and Alison Pendle. The reason I believed this was due to two separate voice actresses being credited within the role. And secondly, because Alice had two extremely different personalities, each with a different voice. Sometimes we heard the sweet and kind-natured tones of Alice Angel's original voice actress, Susie Campbell.
Have you ever wondered what heaven is like? I like to dream that it's quite beautiful.
While other times we heard an unrecognisable voice that sounded far deeper, more seductive, and crueler in tone.
My heart's delight.
And it was this voice I believed belonged to Alison Pendle. It now appears this was not correct. So who is Alice? Or at least the Alice out to get Henry in Chapter 3 and 4? Well, the answer to this is simple. Evil Alice was indeed original voice actress Susie Campbell. We know this because not only do we hear her voice at times in Chapter 3, we also hear her reference herself by name at one point.
Dreams come true, Susie. Dreams come true.
So why would such a nice, innocent character, a woman so full of hopes and dreams, become so evil as to not only kill Henry's best friend Boris, but then use him as a tool of Henry's own destruction? Not to mention all the other Boris clones and Butcher Gang members she has wiped out in the past. Let's go back to the start and look at the first audio recording from Susie found in the music department in Chapter 2. In this recording, Susie states that
these past few weeks I voiced everything from talking chairs to dancing chickens, but this is the first character I've really felt a connection with. She's a part of me.
As we then move into Chapter 3, we hear Susie mention her relationship with Joey Drew.
He wasn't at all what I expected. Quite the charmer. He even called me Alice. I liked it.
It sounds like Joey may have been using Susie for more than her voice talent, or at the very least, was exploiting her naivety. Moving to Chapter 4, we then hear Susie reference Joey with contempt.
Now Joey's going around saying things behind closed doors. Alice? Ooh, she doesn't like liars.
Also notice how she references herself as Alice, almost as if she has begun to embody the role in her day-to-day life. This shows a clear psychological imbalance, perhaps born out of Susie losing the role to new star Alison Pendle.
Angel will now be voiced by Miss Alison Pendle. A part of me died when he said that.
And this was likely the tipping point that caused a fragile and vulnerable Susie to become a vengeful force to be reckoned with. However, it is unlikely that simply losing the role of Alice alone caused Susie Campbell to become a truly evil split personality. No, there's more to this story, and it can be found once again by taking a look at Susie's audio log in Chapter 4.
Now he wants to meet again tomorrow? Says he has an opportunity for me? I'll hear him out.
Susie speaks of Joey having an opportunity for her. My theory on this is that Joey managed to convince Susie to be the first test subject for his brand new creation, the ink machine. This may have led Joey to kill Susie behind the scenes and then reanimate her via the power of the ink machine as a living embodiment of Alice. A concept an unhinged Susie, wishing to become the character she portrayed on screen, would likely have been very open to. However, it doesn't seem things quite went to plan, as Susie states,
First I asked more for its inky womb. I was a wiggling, pussy, shapeless slug. The second time, well,
It made me an angel.
Notice how Susie mentions being born twice. Also, how she states this.
I will not let the demon touch me again.
I believe this demon she mentions is Joey Drew, the man who sold her on false dreams.
There's nothing wrong with dreaming. Wishing for the impossible is just human nature.
I just wanted what was promised to me. I just wanted to be beautiful.
Leading Susie to believe she would become perfect, when in actuality she was simply a pawn in Joey's game as he strived to build his legacy. Now the resurrected Susie is a mangled version of Alice Angel, desperately seeking to make herself perfect by taking hearts from the other inhabitants of the studio.
Look around. It took so many of them to make me so beautiful. Anything less than perfect was left behind.
With each sacrifice, she loses more of her kind and innocent original self and becomes more evil and vengeful, consumed by hate. Until in Chapter 4, we don't see or hear anything from the original Susie Campbell at all. So then, who is the second Alice? The Alice who drove a dagger through Susie's back and has seemingly teamed up with a new and improved version of Boris. Honestly, it's hard to say, as we have zero hard evidence right now. However, I do have a little theory which I'll share with you in this video. We know Alice had two voice actresses, so if Susie Campbell is evil Alice, then it seems logical to conclude Alison Pendle, Alice's other voice talent, would then exist as good Alice. It may have been that after Joey's failed experiment on Susie, he then decided to use Alison as test subject number 2. Potentially against her will, as Joey seems to be anything but a nice guy.
Okay, let's stop right there. I can only do so many takes of this trash a day. And tell the guys in writing I want more use of the word dreaming in every message. Keep railing on that, get? Dreaming, dreaming, dreaming.
Alison Pendle would then have been reborn as the perfect version of Alice, the version of Alice Susie aspired to become. This would obviously have angered Susie and further fueled her evil side. By examining good Alice, we can see that she appears to be covered in dirt with a slightly unkempt appearance. This suggests she may have been kept captive by Susie before managing to escape and finally come to Henry's aid just in the nick of time. Either that, or she's just been battling to stay alive within the studios, just like Henry, for quite some time. Alison has none of the same motivations for hatred and vengeance as Susie, and may have been a more stable person before falling victim to Joey's ritual, resulting in a character who wishes to fight for Team Henry. Now we've taken a look at Alice, it's time for the second piece of the puzzle to fall into place, with a quick theory for Boris. Who is this mysterious new version of our beloved wolf? If you followed any of my previous videos on the subject, you'll know that I've always believed Boris may potentially be fan favourite character Wally Franks.
If one more of these pipes burst, I'm out of here.
From his mannerisms, to his uncanny knack for all things handyman related, to this bizarre collage suggesting a freaked out guy is trapped within a cartoon body found in the very safe house Boris inhabited. Everything points to Boris resembling Wally Franks incredibly closely. Look at Boris's hand here too. Notice how it's now replaced by a mechanical one. We know that Wally had decent technical know-how, as not only did he fix things up around the studio, he also managed to supervise the construction and maintenance of the ink machine itself. The Boris that came after Henry was simply another clone, a clone used by Susie to try and defeat Henry. The real Boris, aka Wally Franks, was tortured.
Better hurry, errand boy. Boris is having trouble staying in one piece.
And may have lost his hand, but then after being rescued by good Alice, was able to construct a mechanical one in its place. This explains both the hand and the reasoning behind its construction, if Boris is indeed Wally Franks. After all, Wally seems to be a lot smarter than many of us gave him credit for.
I tell ya, if these guys don't start realizing who the real genius is, I'm out of here.
Okay, so we've explained the ending, but what does this mean for Chapter 5? Well, if good Alice, aka Alison Pendle, and Boris, aka Wally Franks, now team up with Henry, they may well finally have the strength to stop the ritual from being completed, and vanquish Demon Bendy, aka Joey Drew, once and for all. Wally Franks has the technical knowledge needed to stop the ink machine. Alison Pendle would likely know the full extent of Joey's grand plan, and with the help of the other workers and Henry, the mission to set us free can finally come to a conclusion in Bendy and the Ink Machine, Chapter 5. And that's it for today's video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, remember to give this video a like, leave me a little comment down below and let me know what you think, if you agree or disagree with this particular theory, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more horror related content, and I'll see you guys on the next video.